What is dark psychology? Jung knew before anyone else the most dangerous manipulator you will ever encounter is not a narcissist. It is not a con artist. It is not some charismatic stranger who knows exactly what to say. The most dangerous manipulator you will ever encounter is already inside your own mind, and it has been running the show for years. Tonight, we are going to talk about something that Carl Jung understood almost a century before the term dark psychology ever trended on a single bookshelf or algorithm. And once you see it, you will not be able to unsee it. If you have spent any time in the psychology corner of the internet, you have probably come across the phrase dark psychology. Manipulation tactics, the dark triad, narcissism, Machiavellianism, psychopathy, how to spot a covert narcissist, how to protect yourself from emotional predators. And there is value in that material, truly. But here is the thing almost no one tells you. That entire framework is descriptive. It catalogs what manipulators do, the love bombing, the gaslighting, the intermittent reinforcement. It names the moves, but it never answers the deeper question, the one Jung spent his life circling. Why does it work on you, not people? You. Why you specifically keep walking into dynamics you swore you would never repeat. Why you recognize the red flags and stay anyway. Why you hand over trust to people who, to everyone else, are transparently untrustworthy. That is what this video is actually about. Not how to spot the darkness in others, but why you keep leaving the door open, and what lives inside you that keeps unlocking it. To understand any of this, you need to understand one concept. Jung called it the shadow. The shadow is not your dark side in the way pop culture frames it. It is not a villain. It is not the monster under the bed. The shadow is simply everything about yourself that you decided was too dangerous to be. Think about that for a moment. Not just your cruelty or your jealousy, your ambition too, your rage, your hunger for power, your sexuality, even sometimes your brilliance. Anything that early in life drew punishment or rejection or a certain look on a parent's face. You learned to push it down, push it away, and eventually to forget it was ever there at all. But here is what Jung understood that most people still do not. The shadow does not disappear when you disown it. It simply goes underground. And underground, it does not sit quietly. It operates. Your shadow gaslights you. It tells you that the anger you felt was irrational, that the desire you noticed was shameful, that the boundary you almost set was selfish. It rewrites your emotional history in real time so that you stay, as Jung put it, acceptable, mostly to yourself. Your shadow manipulates you. It engineers situations that confirm its worldview. If you carry an abandonment wound, your shadow does not simply fear being left. It finds relationships precision-designed to leave you. It selects for partners who are emotionally unavailable and then tells you the story that you just need to try harder, love better, be more. And here's the part that might be difficult to hear. Your shadow also manipulates others. Every time you perform a version of yourself to gain approval, every time you weaponize silence because you know exactly how someone will interpret your withdrawal, every time you deploy strategic vulnerability, not to connect, but to control. That is your shadow, fluent in the language of dark psychology, executing moves you never consciously authorized, Jung would say, gently but without flinching. Before you worry about being manipulated by others, take a careful look at how many people you quietly manipulated before breakfast, just by being polite. Now we need to talk about the mechanism that connects your inner dark psychology to the outer kind. Jung called it projection. Projection is what happens when the contents of your shadow, the things you refuse to see in yourself, get transferred onto other people. You do not experience them as your own qualities. You experience them as belonging to someone else. And this is not a metaphor. This is a perceptual distortion. When you are projecting, you literally cannot see the other person clearly. You are seeing your own disowned material wearing their face. This is why people fall for manipulators who, to everyone else, are transparently obvious. Think about the friend who just tells it like it is. The one who delivers cruel observations disguised as honesty, and somehow you end up apologizing. You know this person. But here's the Jungian layer most people miss. Notice the flicker. That small secret moment where a part of you admired their ruthlessness, where something inside you enjoyed watching them say the devastating thing you would never allow yourself to say. That flicker is your shadow recognizing itself. You are not just tolerating this person. A part of you is feeding off them. They are acting out your disowned aggression, and that unconscious contract, that unspoken exchange, is what makes the dynamic so impossibly sticky. You cannot leave because you are getting something from it you will not admit to yourself. Jung had a term for this that most people have never encountered. He called it participation mystique. It describes what happens when two people's unconscious material interlocks, creating a shared psychological field that neither person fully controls or even sees. This is why toxic dynamics feel fated, magnetic, cosmically significant. It is not just that they are manipulating you. It is that your unconscious and their unconscious have entered into a collaboration, a project neither of you consciously authorized. Your wounds fit together like puzzle pieces, and the resulting picture looks, from the inside, like destiny. From the outside, it looks like something else entirely. This is the Jungian explanation for trauma bonds, for cult dynamics, for that relationship where, looking back, you barely recognize who you were inside it. Almost everyone has had that experience. You said yes when you meant no. You abandoned friendships. You explained away things that were obviously painfully wrong. And the standard narrative afterward is clean and simple. I was manipulated by a toxic person, and maybe you were. But Jung would press further, quietly, without judgment. He would ask, what part of you was so desperate to be chosen that it volunteered for its own erasure? That is not victim blaming. That is shadow work. Somewhere in your psyche, a complex is something like an autonomous subpersonality, a fragment of your inner world that carries its own emotions, its own logic, its own agenda. That complex was running an ancient program, one that whispered, if I just become small enough, formless enough, accommodating enough, I will finally be safe, or loved, or enough. The manipulator did not install that program. They simply found it already running. So what do you do with all of this? The modern dark psychology genre will tell you, learn the tactics, build better defenses, sharpen your detection skills, memorize the signs of narcissistic abuse so you can spot them faster next time. And again, there is a place for that. Awareness of external manipulation tactics has genuine protective value. But Jung would say that it is not enough, and he would be right. Because you can memorize every manipulation tactic ever cataloged, and your shadow will still find a way to let the next one in through a door you did not know existed. Think about your phone for a moment. You pick it up to check one thing. 45 minutes later, you surface feeling vaguely hollow. You know the algorithm is engineered to exploit your dopamine system. You have watched the documentaries. You have read the articles. And yet, this is what Jung would recognize instantly. Knowing about a complex does not free you from it. The reason algorithmic manipulation works is not just clever engineering. It is that it hooks into shadow material. The outrage content you cannot stop watching. It is activating your disowned moral superiority. The comparison trap on social media. It is feeding a grandiosity wound you have never properly grieved. The algorithm did not create those vulnerabilities. It simply found the doors your shadow left unlocked. Jung's answer was not defense. It was integration. Integration is the slow, humbling, often uncomfortable process of meeting your own shadow, not destroying it, not healing it in the way the internet uses that word, as though you could sand down every rough edge until only smoothness remains. Integration means turning toward the parts of yourself you have spent a lifetime turning away from. withdrawing your projections, becoming conscious of your complexes, not to eliminate them, but to know them, to sit with them, to say, yes, that is also me. A person who has truly reckoned with their own capacity for darkness, for selfishness, for manipulation, is almost impossible to manipulate from the outside. Not because they have built higher walls, but because the lights are on, every room is lit, there is nowhere inside them for a predator to hide. Because there is nowhere inside them, they are still afraid to look. That is the real defense, not vigilance, consciousness. So here's what I want to leave you with tonight. And I want you to really sit with this one. Not answer it quickly. If you were to be completely honest, not performatively honest, not self-deprecatingly honest, but truly, quietly honest with yourself, what is the one way you manipulate the people closest to you that you have never once admitted out loud? Not the big dramatic manipulations, the small, daily one. The subtle withdrawal of warmth when you do not get your way. The strategic vulnerability that is really a bid for control. The silence that you know they will interpret as disappointment. You know the one. Jung would say that until you can name it, until you can look at that small, dark thing without flinching and say, yes, that is also me, you will remain vulnerable to every manipulator who learned to do the same thing louder. The call was always coming from inside the house, and that is not a terrifying realization. It is a liberating one, because the only darkness you can never defend against is the darkness you refuse to see in yourself. But the moment you turn toward it, the moment you let it be seen, it begins to lose the only power it ever had, the power of operating unseen. The shadow does not ask to be loved, it only asks to be seen. If this reached something in you tonight, I am glad you stayed. This channel is a place where we go beneath the surface of psychology, not to perform insight, but to actually practice it. If you want to continue this kind of work, there is a subscribe button below, and I will be here when you are ready for the next one. Take care of yourself, and take care of your shadow too. It has been waiting.